All right, so today we're diving into a real game changer, a monumental album, Notorious B.I.G.'s Ready to Die. This isn't just about the music, though, right? It's
Uh,
deeper. Like there's a whole philosophy here, laid out in beats and rhymes.
Yeah, and what's crazy is this album dropped back in 94,
94, wow.
almost 30 years ago. And the West Coast scene was blowing up then, that G-funk sound.
Yeah,
Super smooth, funky, it was everywhere. And then, boom, Biggie comes in from Brooklyn, just a young guy, and just flips the script.
totally. East Coast rap needed that. Needed someone to shake things up. But here's what gets me. This album, it's like his own story, almost an autobiography.
Yeah.
And the guy was only 22 when he made it.
It really makes you think, like, what had he lived through by 22 to have that kind of voice? It's so mature, almost world-weary. I mean, the way he talks about life and death, that's heavy stuff most people don't deal with until, like, way later.
It's true. That line from Everyday Struggle, where he says, I don't want to live no more. Sometimes I hear death knocking at my front door. Chills, man. Chills every time. The weight of that,
Mm-hmm.
you could feel it.
Absolutely. Death, it's like this presence throughout the whole album, like a premonition almost. But then he throws you a curveball. Think about Juicy, that classic rags to riches vibe.
And that's what makes Biggie so compelling. It's that duality.
Yeah.
He's real about the tough stuff, the struggles, but he also celebrates, the
Yeah.
success, the women, the good life. He owns it all.
Exactly. And Juicy is the perfect example. It's more than just escaping poverty. It's that transformation, that pure joy of overcoming the odds. Even the production reflects it. It starts off kind of stripped down, almost sad, reflecting the tough times he's rapping about. Then, bam, that beat kicks in. Those horns, triumphant, like you're finally stepping into the light after being in the dark for so long.
Wow, I never thought about it that way, how the production adds a whole other layer.
Oh, it's crucial. You've got these legends behind the boards. Easy Mo Bee, Chucky Thompson, a young Puff Daddy, creating this sonic world that fits the themes perfectly.
So you got these raw, honest lyrics, this light and dark thing going on, and the production just takes it all to another level. Give me another example of how the sound matches the feeling. Like, what else you got?
Okay, think about Machine Gun Funk. Right. Raw, gritty, almost like you're suffocating. It's that street life that Biggie knew so well. And the producers, they use these horn samples, but they're distorted, menacing. Creates this atmosphere like you're trapped in a dangerous situation, that feeling of real tension.
Which brings us to that album cover.
Yeah.
You can't talk Ready to Die without talking about that image. The baby in diapers and the title, Ready to Die. Talk about a statement, right?
Oh, man, that sparked so much debate back in the day. It's such a stark contrast. Pure innocence, the baby, and then ready to die. That harsh reality.
Like a punch to the gut. You
Yeah.
see that innocence and then boom, the title reminds you how quickly it can be ripped away, especially in that environment where Biggie came from.
Yeah. And that image, right, it's like it just grabs you. And I think that says a lot about why this album still has people talking. It makes you think about tough stuff, ready to die. It's more than just like a great hip hop album. It's social commentary. It's about life and death. And it connects with people even if they're like worlds away from Biggie's experiences.
Okay, so break that down for me. Why does this album, decades later, still hit so hard? What's the legacy of Ready to Die?
Well, think about what Biggie's rapping about. Poverty, violence. You've got systemic injustice, that desire for something better. Those problems, they haven't gone away. A lot of communities are still dealing with this stuff.
It's true, yeah. And Biggie's voice, there's just this rawness, this honesty that cuts through everything else. He's not trying to sugarcoat anything, right? He's putting it all out there, good, bad, the ugly, and you can't look away.
Exactly. He's giving a voice to people who don't always have one, a whole generation. People who feel unseen, unheard. And his music, his words, they build empathy, even if you haven't walked in his shoes.
You feel like you're right there with him, like you're walking those streets, feeling those struggles. He pulls you in.
Absolutely. He had this incredible talent, this way of using words to paint these vivid pictures. It's like you can feel every emotion he's putting out there.
It's like you're listening to a conversation, not just a song, which is something we talked about earlier. That intimacy is so powerful.
For sure. And that's a big part of why this album is still relevant. Those stories, those emotions, they're timeless. They go beyond a specific time or place.
So where does Ready to Die fit in the whole history of hip-hop? What's its legacy? And I don't just mean East Coast rap. I mean the whole genre.
Oh, man. It's got to be up there with the greats. It's a cornerstone of East Coast hip-hop.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it brought the power back to New York. It reminded everyone that this city was a force to be reckoned with. But bigger than that, It changed storytelling in hip-hop. It set a new standard.
And you can still hear his influence today, right?
Yeah.
That style, that flow,
Mm.
it's in so much of the music that's being made now.
No doubt. Biggie's influence is huge. What's crazy is Ready to Die, it's more than just a hip-hop album. It's like a cultural artifact. It captures this specific moment, a specific place, but also like this universal human experience
Okay.
all at the same time.
Which leads to a really important question for our listeners. Knowing all of this, the backstory, the context, the impact, does it change how you listen to Ready to Die now? Does it hit you differently? It makes you think about context, right? Like how much it shapes how we see art.
Absolutely, man. Like, you're missing half the story if you don't know the background, the why behind the music.
Exactly. We can listen to a song a million times, but then you learn the story, the meaning behind those lyrics, and boom, it hits you completely different, at least for me, is how it is.
Yeah, it's true. Suddenly, a song can become like way more powerful, more meaningful, even more relevant to your own life, even if it was written like ages ago.
And speaking of that, for someone just hearing Ready to Die for the first time now, maybe they're just discovering Biggie, what do you hope they get from this deep dive? What unlocks this album for them?
That's a great question. I think it's got to be experiencing Ready to Die as a whole.
Mm.
Don't just cherry pick the hits. Go front to back. Follow that story. Feel how the mood changes, how the music itself reflects what Biggie's saying.
It's like reading a book, right? You don't skip to the ending. You got to take that whole journey to really get it.
Exactly. It's amazing to think he was only 22 when he created this masterpiece. Blows my mind.
Right, the talent, the vision, you can't deny it. And his legacy, it goes so far beyond music.
He was a voice for so many, inspired countless artists, and, he started these conversations, important ones, about race, about class, about justice.
Conversations we're still having today, unfortunately.
Sadly, yeah. But it speaks to Biggie's impact that Ready to Die still matters so much. It's this timeless story about struggling, about triumph, about the human spirit. It's about how music connects us.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And that's what the deep dive is about, right? Giving you, the listener, a deeper understanding of the art, the ideas that shape our world. So, here's your homework. Go listen to Ready to Die again. But this time, listen with everything we've talked about in mind. You'll hear it in a whole new way, I promise. Until next time, keep digging deeper, keep asking those questions, keep the music playing. Peace.